area, my country people. Now welcome back again to Bod TV, but we will analyze all the trends that they happen. Hey, yeah. This one they hot like fire, my country people. Nigeria government don't declare central bank staff and others wanted for forging ex-president Buhari's signature, where they take move money where he reach $6.2 million. E.g. they cash me, my country people. This country, we don't know where we they go. Everybody's corrupt. Hey. Not to say now only president they corrupt, so everybody corrupt, my country people. As we they look, see, now only this one they now lie. Oh, we can't hear say the IMF don't claim say Tinubu government don't secretly return fuel subsidy back. How true is this one? Because the day when the man talks, say subsidy is removed, now everybody take find themselves for this problem. So we be say overnight dollar enter 1,500 naira. My country people, in a way, nobody they see food they chop again. Nobody they see nothing, no naira no get value again. In fact, a landlord and landlady don't talk say lie. They no ever collect money with naira. If you want trade with them, you must be dollar. You must give them dollar, my country people. They say Tinubu don't secretly don't go consult. They tell and say, oh hey guy, the only way now to bring subsidy back, my country people. This subsidy matter waiting day inside. As that one come bolo for when I remember I said the Nigeria Bar Association where they put Tinubu matter for head. They use and take tight gele. They come wear cocoa show on top. These same people don't ask President Bola Tinubu make it declare the state of emergency. Say the issue of insecurity for the country. Say e know your good. See, my country people. Not support who you not this sure of. These people they put Tinubu matter for head. Una remember say all the things where waiting that Mahmood do. Now these people they can't finish. Now they all of them can't gather. They can't finish the whole thing. Mona see now, we not they see anybody again. All those way they shout say it's fake news. It's fake news. Yes, Tinubu will work. Tinubu will work. Mona see all the Tinubu will work matter. You don't full grand. With all the counts, they go 9 months now. Nothing has been done. Hey, my country people. This one go auto. Now this one I can't make Falan. I can't talk. Say president. Hey. Wait till they chase person. They go. Your citizen. They go. One day. That same thing will knock for your door. I beg. We're gonna watch videos. Sarafu Grandi. This one a Bod TV. Bob. You they analyze all the trends. Where they happen. We're gonna carry go.
I think there should begin a conversation tonight about what you said at a recent event in Lagos, perhaps at a Beko event, which we saw you in a video that's gone viral, where you are making mentions about accruers from the benefits of fuel subsidy removal. There are those who will be imagining what exactly is Mr. Fernando talking about. Can you just briefly summarize what you meant in that video?
Well, my position was anchored on official figures released by the government on a monthly basis. And a couple of months ago, the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, did announce publicly that since the removal of fuel subsidy, there has been no month that the money shared by the three tiers of government have been less than 1 trillion naira. Whereas in April last year, before the removal, the amount shared by FAC was 655 billion naira. In July, the amount shared was meant to be shared was 1.9 trillion naira. But the federal government and the state government, in their wisdom, felt we will keep part of this money. So we'll keep 900 billion naira, while we will share 1 trillion naira. In December, the amount shared was 1.7 trillion naira. So if at the end of the day, the government, the federation, government of the federation, and I'm talking of the three tiers of government, is smiling to the bank or banks with what is between 500 and 1 trillion naira additional funds. Members of the public are entitled to the benefit of the removal because that was the promise. We are removing fuel subsidy so that the money wasted, on importation of fuel will be channeled towards the development of the country, to address infrastructural challenge, to alleviate poverty, and so on and so forth. And what we are simply asking, not from the federal government alone, from the state governments, local governments, where are the benefits of fuel subsidy removal? Simple and straightforward. I'm not concocting figures. These are the figures in the public domain.
But where do we look if to ask for these monies and how it has been spent? Before the removal, if the allocation between 2022 and 2023, if you compare the figures, it seems to there are about 3 trillion naira difference in what accrued or what was shared at FARC, and that those will be asking question, where are these money? Just rightly that you have asked, how do we then be able to ask who of how the money was spent? Who should we be asking? Is it the federal government or the state government or the local government?
Sheung, I have made my own point. Based on figures oozing out of power, for the seat of power, it is now left for the media and Nigerian people to find out where are the gains of fuel subsidy removal. And it's so simple and straightforward. And we are also demanding that on a monthly basis, as was the practice in the past, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation must publish what goes to every tier of government. That was a culture in the past. At a stage, we were told the government was going to be run in a rather opaque manner. But we are saying there can be no opacity in governance because Section 22 of the Constitution, in fact, has imposed a duty on the media to promote transparency and accountability in the government. So you have a duty, Sheung, and the media are compelled to demand on a monthly basis what goes to every tier of government. And then we compare what was being earned before fuel subsidy removal and what is paid to the federation account after subsidy removal. You will recall, Sheung, at a stage, for several months or even for almost a year, the NNPC did not remit any fund, any money to the federation account. But now we are told we're no longer spending on subsidy, subsidizing fuel. Therefore, this is what we are making per month. And so, just like the federal government is saying, we are giving a 35,000 naira to workers, even though we are told now that only 2 months have been paid. So we also expect state governments, local governments to also announce what we call palliatives. But for me, I think the ideal thing would have been if we are now making between 500 billion naira and 1 trillion naira, can we share 50%? While the remaining 50% will be warehoused by an agency of the government, manned by credible people in the society to address challenges in the area of education, in the area of health, road, network, and so on and so forth, so that we can see the advantage, unquote, of subsidy removal. Many of us, some of us, were stridently opposed to the removal because there's no society, there's no country in the world where government does not subsidize one product or the other, even in the most advanced capitalist societies. And that is why Nigerians must now begin to ask the government to discard and jettison the deleterious programs and policies of the IMF and World Bank. Because just yesterday, the IMF was asking the government remove fuel subsidy in its entirety and also increase electricity tariff. Whereas the government had told the nation and the IMF and World Bank, come, the political atmosphere in the country is not conducive to electricity tariff because our people are suffering. The government is subsidizing the discourse. Two, again, just last month, the IMF was accusing the British government of not investing enough in education and health. This same agency, these Bretton Woods institutions are asking our government to remove all subsidies and impose a rush of increases on goods and services in our country. So I think these are the issues. This government must
Mr. Falana, let me,
No, this is very important. The only economic body recognized by the Constitution to advise the president is the National Economic Council, headed by the vice president. And that body is peopled by the governors, the governor of the central bank, state governors, the governor of the central bank, the minister of finance. So why has that body abdicated its responsibility to the IMF and World Bank? So that is the body that, the majority of them are elected. Yeah. They are serving the people. So you must advise the president what your people are saying, based on what your people are saying, based on their demands. So that is the body that...
Are you worried, Mr. Falana? Because, some of the feelers that, apart from the fact that the IMF a few days ago was advising the government that it needs to take away every kind of subsidy, even on electricity and the tariffs therein. There are also feelers that the IMF may not even have a total belief in the words of the government of Nigeria in the removal of fuel subsidy, because there are feelers as to the fact that there might be the payment of subsidy on fuel through the back door. Are you worried about that kind of feeling coming from that kind of global entity?
You know, the global entity is not a neutral body. It does not give advice in vacuum. It is an ideological battle. These institutions were set up by imperialism, principally to destroy the economies of developing countries. Why they turn the other eye when Western governments are giving subsidies to their people. And I am challenging the IMF here to take interest in the report of the 2020 report of the Auditor General of the Federation, presented to sent to the National Assembly last November. That report is saying that the $3.5 billion, the loan of $3.5 billion taken by Nigeria from the IMF cannot be located. That is what the report is saying. The IMF should be interested in that, because we are required to pay the loan in 4 years, between 2023 and 2027. So the IMF should be interested in that and stop mounting pressure on the government to multiply the hardship of Nigerians. And the government must summon the courage to tell this institution to mind their business and allow our country to be run in the interest of our country. In the interest of Nigerians, because the Constitution, Section 16, as stipulated, that the government of Nigeria shall be under a legal obligation to plan the economy of Nigeria, to run the economy of Nigeria, in order to promote happiness, not sadness, as it is the case now. And this wonderful country has enormous human and natural resources. If well husbanded, we should have no business with poverty. These institutions are not helping the government to recover the looted wealth of the country. Hidden in the West, hidden in Western banks and other financial institutions. So all they do is to mount prayer on the government. Thou shalt remove subsidies. Otherwise, your economy will collapse. But the economy of the United Kingdom is not collapsing. So the economy of the United States is not collapsing. Germany and the rest of them that are giving subsidies to their people.
I mean, Mr. Falana, from what you've said, when we look at it, the Nigerian economy had defied the projections of the IMF against the projections of the Nigerian government about the growth of the economy. And we've seen some growth in the positive direction at some point, which shows that at some point the accuracy of the IMF projections may not be valid. But let me take you to your battle in the courtroom. You are of the opinion that government should fix the price of essential commodities. And I had opportunity to speak with economists who have said that Mr. Falana, yes, a social idea, a welfarist idea, a populist idea to go to court to fight this battle, but it may not have a realistic economic implication, or it may not be realistic in the real sense of it. They say that is more or less an academic exercise. Are you worried that that court order may not see the light of day or may not be implemented or be obeyed?
So, I can assure you, after the deadline set by the court, we're going to take steps to enforce the judgment. Some of these guys are apostles of neoliberalism. It is only when it comes to the poor that they suddenly realize that a judgment of a court meant to compel the government to be accountable cannot be obeyed. That's what they do. Some of my colleagues, lawyers, have challenged me. I've challenged the judgment. Oh, we are running a capitalist system. It's a free market system. How can you ask the government to control prices? And I said, oh, by the way, Seun, the Nigerian legal profession is the most regulated in Nigeria. Most regulated. One, I must pay, if I fail to pay my practicing fees by 31st of every year, I can be disallowed from practicing law in any court in Nigeria. Number two, when I want to file papers, I must buy the stamp and seal designed by the Nigerian MBA, by the Nigerian Bar Association. And it must be affixed to every process, even the letters I write in my chamber. Furthermore, I must collect VAT from my client and remit to FRS. 4, the MBA, the government, came out with what they call 2023 remuneration order for all lawyers in Nigeria. That order has stipulated what I should charge my clients in a free market economy. Except a few of us who engage in pro bono work. Even then, it must be recorded by them. So these are the same guys who are coming out to say, how can you enforce this? But when the same system gives duty waivers to the rich, that can be enforced. When the same system gives tax relief to the rich, that can be enforced. But when it comes to the poor, and what we are saying here, Sheung, is that majority of these goods are imported from abroad. Some members of the business community, you call them captains of industry, are giving duty waivers in 5 years under the last 5 years under the Buhari administration. The duty waivers given to certain companies and individuals total 16 trillion naira. The point is this: if you are giving 16 trillion naira, money that should have been paid to the federation account, by the way, for the benefit of all Nigerians, so you are now giving by the government. You now want to go to town and sell your products without control by the government. That would be abdication of the duty of the government. And that is why that law has been there since 1977. I didn't enact the law. This, apart from the Price Control Act, you also have the Federal Consumer Protection Commission. These two bodies are set up to regulate prices, protect consumers from unwarranted exploitation. So unless those laws are repealed, we have a duty to go to court. And that was exactly what I did. And the court has given its judgment.
Mr. Falano, so
yes.
So let me jump in quickly. You were recorded to have there's an inference being drawn to your comment as to asking citizens to rise up in some kind of social revolution on the policies of the government of the day in terms of what has become a worrying situation in the price of commodities. Is that exactly what you are asking the Nigerian citizens to do as a response to what is going on in the land? A social revolution. Is that what you are saying?
Now, I think Niger State, there was a protest. Of course, there have been protests in many parts of the country, without my knowledge. And the governor ordered the arrest of the protesters. The APC Secretariat has issued a statement to the effect that the protests against the rising cost of living in our country are sponsored by some opposition or named opposition political parties. And all I've said is that it is the duty of Nigerians, it is the right of Nigerians to express themselves either through protest or writing articles or whatever. We fought against obtaining police permit to protest in Nigeria. What the law now says, Section 84, subsection 3 of the Police Establishment Act of 2020 is that during protest, the police shall provide security for the participants in such protests. And I'm saying Nigerians should be allowed to protest against injustice, against inimical economic programs and policies. And it's a legitimate demand. It is therefore a challenge to the government to move speedily to address the complaints of the people and not read political motivation into them.
So I think we should anchor on this note. Where there is this divide and where the nation is at this crossroad, the citizens are on one hand feeling the pinch of the economic hardship. And the government on one hand says that it's committed into doing what is right by Nigerians. In your own view, is this government under the Bola Tinubu administration misstepping? Or are they doing the right thing? Or what exactly do you think is the right way to go? We just have about 40 seconds to wrap up on
this.
The
right thing to do is to reject the prescriptions of the IMF and the World Bank. Remove fuel subsidy, float your currency, and so on and so forth, which have never assisted any country to develop. Secondly, the government is dancing around the problems. These circulars by the central bank will not address the crisis in the forex market. Two issues that are not being addressed is that there is a group of countries, there are countries in the world today, insisting that we are not going to be tied to the American dollars. We want to trade among ourselves in our currencies. And those countries are in BRICS. Brazil, India, Russia, China, and South Africa. Others are joining them. Saudi Arabia has joined them, UAE, Ethiopia, Egypt, and others. And Nigeria is not there. We cannot be more Catholic than the Pope. If friends of the West are joining BRICS, why are we not there? So that we can trade. Countries, Nigeria and other countries can trade in their currency. We trade in Naira. The second one, in 2018, Nigeria and China enter into a currency swap agreement for 5 years. And as a government, go back to China and say, please, whereas when we signed that swap agreement in 2018, the volume of trade was in the area of $3 billion or thereabout. Last year, we imported goods worth $22 billion from China, even though we only exported goods of over $1.6 billion. Now, we should tell the Chinese, please, we need to increase, because that agreement will expire in July. We need to renew the agreement. We need to renegotiate the agreement. And then the final one, Sean, is remittances. It's about $25 billion. Where are the remittances? In 2017, I had to drag Mr. Godwin Emefiele to the EFCC when he said only $2.6 billion was coming to Nigeria. He said no. And what did he do then? Is to ask you, if you have sent some money from abroad, you have to go and collect Naira. So the dollar component stayed abroad. And I said, no, this is fraudulent. And the EFCC said, Mr. Emefiele, if you insist, this lawyer is insisting that we should, suggesting that we should charge you for money laundering. And at the end of the day, the central bank said, no, please collect your money in the currency to which it was sent, so that you can take it, either you keep it in your domiciliary account or you change it. The central bank is almost reversing that position. So at the end of the day, the remittances will not come to Nigeria, but will stay abroad. So these are what you may call liberal policies. If I had my way, my own radical policy would be that I would sell Nigeria gas and crude oil in Naira. Let those who want to buy our product look for Naira. And that is how to promote your currency. But this business of everybody looking for dollars,
Mr. Falano,
even to pay school fees, you look for dollars. To rent houses, to sell houses, you collect dollars. It doesn't happen unless you dollarize your economy. So these are the issues the government will have to address,
Mr. Falano,
for us to come out of this economic doldrum. Thank you.
I want to say, in all manner of, with all manner of seriousness and sincerity, that we are in dire straits, mainly because we have found ourselves in almost a sinkhole economically, trying to get out of it. The challenges are not only daunting and enormous, but almost seemingly unsurmountable. But here we are. We have a government in place, and what I see that is shocking, if the stories that made the headlines yesterday and probably the day before concerning the $6.2 million, that was said to have been authorized and taken out of the CBN by, on the instruction of the former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, was not only embarrassing and scandalous, it tells a lot on the quality that was on the table and the ways of doing business, government business. I have been privileged to work in the circle. The procedure of taking money out of the central bank by a public servant is known. You go to the Ministry of Finance, the permanent secretary will sign the documents, it will go down the line to the directors, and then a letter will be given to you to the central bank. You go to a director or whoever the desk officer is, and then you will pick the money. I have done that when I was in government. There was never a time in our history that I would come to believe that a public servant will just write a letter to the central bank directly, almost avoiding these checks and balances. It does not tell well on, our own, integrity as a people, as a nation, and the government.
So, but how much question can we then ask of systems? Because different governments have come, different governments have gone. Can they then pump their chest and say they put in systems? Because this clearly now, this loophole exists because there's a lacuna somewhere in the system and the structure.
Yes, I think basically, and I don't want to be seen to be kind of patronizing, patronizing or supporting my brother, Elijah Salihu Lukman. But look, the government came in when PDP was defeated in 2015. Came in, like he said, on a populist, cult following. But then it slowly transcended into what I will call not an oligarchy in a democracy, but something close to that, where the rules were literally, not all of it, most of it, were set aside. Quality minds were taken off the system. And anybody who seemed to have had a different view, it was like you challenging Buhari, not challenging the system whenever there was a fault.
But does it matter that the CBN governor was appointed by the PDP at the time?
It doesn't. It is the attitude. It is the conduct. It is the way of doing business. Look, I was privileged to have been appointed the Director General of the FRCN by President Goodluck Jonathan. And I was 2 years on. I rose from the system. I knew nothing in my entire life apart from broadcast journalism. I rose through the system to become a DG. I wasn't politically appointed. 2 years on, we were asked to go and lumped together with political appointees. And there were many of us like that. So what you had was, you pulled out people that are professionals that were to have given the government a sort of check, and balance mechanism. To say, no, this is not the way it is done. You are coming anew. This is how we go about it. And it was like job for the boys and anything goes. So what you see is what you get. Garbage in, garbage out. And I don't like to blame people. I like to blame systems. If there was a breakdown...
Isn't it people that will put in place a good system?
Yes, look, like everybody said, and I respect Buhari as an elder statesman. But look, Chamberlain, as far as I'm concerned, Buhari is history, and history will judge him, rightly or wrongly. But right now, we have a president in charge. He should step forward and take responsibility. No alibis, no innuendos, no excuses, no any of the buck passing that we are used to.
Again, this time around, because it has become more and more clearer to us that the problems our nation is facing is more than political. It's a problem require quite a bit of spiritual solution. We as a country are blessed. We are blessed with people with great intelligence. We are blessed with all manners of resources, and yet we have so many problems. And it's not as if the people in authority are not trying their best. They're doing as much as humanly possible. And then we find that when you have problems that are beyond humans' ability to solve, then you call on the Almighty. The reason we call him the Almighty is because he has the power to solve all problems. And so we have been going around in our own little way to support the efforts of all the various governments and parastatals to call on the Almighty to come to our aid, because we need help. We need help, and we need it urgently. Because as much as our rulers are doing their very best to help us solve our problems, the problems seem to have persisted. In some sense, in some areas, even the problems seem to be getting worse. But we trust the Almighty God. We trust in God that these problems will not last forever. Amen. We trust God that the problems will even be over sooner than later. Amen. That's why we have been going outside, holding crusades, and the crusades are just a means of gathering the people together to let them know, oh, tomorrow is going to be all right. If we can just be a little more patient with God, the God who is on his throne is going to solve our problems. We believe very firmly that the people need this kind of encouragement so that they don't, because when people lose hope, they do all kinds of strange things. Many of our youth, for example, are running out of the country, forgetting that those countries they are running away to, they also have their own problems. And then those who cannot run anywhere, we don't want a situation where people begin to think of taking their own lives. We've had quite a few examples of people driving in Lagos to the Long Bridge, Kata Bridge and so on, and jumping into the lagoon. Those of them that were rescued before they drowned, they said that they couldn't see a future. And we keep on assuring them God is on his throne. He's not going to forsake our nation. And so we've been to some states. It happens to be the turn of Kaduna State.
You have, at critical times in our country, made interventions aimed at directing the political leadership to the fight of justice and fairness. Your moral authority is a huge asset. We deeply appreciate you, sir. We also believe, from the remarks you made just now, that our country at this critical time requires intervention from people like you who are tested and who have in the past intervened and helped us to find solutions to our problems in the past. We believe you will be tired. We also need your intervention at this critical time. Like you said, many Nigerians are losing hope. And they are also being very cautious about the future. But like I said in my own conversation with you before this meeting, that we are going through difficulties because of what happened in the past. And right now, we have a president who is determined, focused, and who is ready to take our country to the higher height. And I have no doubt in my mind, with their intervention, their prayers, our president will certainly get it right. Because so far, Mr. President has taken some very important steps toward moving our country forward. But most of these steps, I think that may be difficult at this critical time because there are major reforms we need, both economic reforms as well as social reforms. And looking at some of the things that happened in the past for him to correct them, he needs some reforms that might be painful at this critical time. But I have no doubt in my mind, in the near future, Nigeria will be better for all of us by the grace of God. That is the reason why we continue to seek for your advice, for your wisdom, for your support, and most importantly, for your prayers. You have, at critical times in our country, made interventions aimed at directing the political leadership to the fight of justice and fairness. Your moral authority is a huge asset. We deeply appreciate you, sir. We also believe, from the remarks we made just now, that our country at this critical time requires intervention from people like you who are tested and who have in the past intervened and helped us to find solutions to our problems in the past. We believe you will be tired. We also need your intervention at this critical time. Like you said, many Nigerians are losing hope, and they are also being very cautious about the future. But like I said in my own conversation with you before this meeting, that we are going through difficulties because of what happened in the past. And right now, we have a president who is determined, focused, and who is ready to take our country to the higher height. And I have no doubt in my mind, with their intervention, their prayers, our president will certainly get it right. Because so far, Mr. President has taken some very important steps toward moving our country forward. But most of these steps, I think that may be difficult at this critical time because there are major reforms we need, both economic reforms as well as social reforms. And looking at some of the things that happened in the past for him to correct them, he needs some reforms that might be painful at this critical time. But I have no doubt in my mind, in the near future, Nigeria will be better for all of us by the grace of God. That is the reason why we continue to seek for your advice, for your wisdom, for your support.
This is Bod TV Bod. In case the first time you come here, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more uploads.